of the public who we have with us here today as well. For those of you that I haven't had the privilege of meeting yet, my name is Sanchi Jacobs and I am the Chief Executive of Central Otago District Council. Today, the members of this board are going to be sworn in to make their declarations to represent the community for the next 3 years as you have been elected to do so. The meeting today is largely ceremonial and procedural. It's my role to chair the first part of this meeting. The mayor will then swear you all in, and then we will carry on to elect a chair of the board and a deputy chair of the board, and then the chair will take over managing the rest of the meeting until we close. The rest of the meeting is comprised of a range of legal and other documents that are required to set up a functioning council, and that councils across New Zealand will be approving over the coming weeks. We have no apologies, there's no these buildings. And as Chief Executive of Council, it's now my great pleasure to invite His Worship to swear in members of the Teviot Daily Community Board.
Thank you very much, Madam CEO. Welcome everybody, particularly new members. Glad to have you all here. So this is, as Nancy has said, a very simple but important ceremonial part of the role. That's where you will make a declaration, which is a legal document and a legal requirement to take your role as members of the board. And it's a simple matter of standing by me, reading it out, signing it. I sign it, I shake your hand, you sit down, you get on with the meeting. So it's done in no particular order other than alphabetical. So Jill, you're first up.
I just read it out for you. I, Jill Devote, declare I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interest of Central Otago the powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Central Otago District Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meeting Act 1987 or any other act.
And
I, Norman Daly, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interest of Central Otago the powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Central Otago District Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987 and or any other act. Thank you.
I, Sally Finan, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interests of Central Otago the powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as member of the Central Otago District Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987 or any other act.
there he is, ready to go.
Thank you. I, Mark Essex, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interest of Central Otago the powers and authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Central Otago District Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, Local Government Information and Meetings Act 1987 or any other act. Stated, remember. Okay.
Russell.
I, Russell Reid, declare I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interest of Central Otago the powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Central Otago District Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987 or any other act. Thank you.
Yours, Madam CEO.
Thank you very much and congratulations to all of you for the 3 years that we have been together. I'm now going to turn to paper 22.6.2, the appointment of a chair and deputy chair, and I'm going to invite Wayne Matthew, who's our governance manager, up to present that.
Good everyone, and once again, congratulations on your election. So this is for appointment of the chair and deputy chair, which is mandated in the Local Government Act 2002. And in that act, there are two potential ways to pick a chair and deputy chair, and one of those ways you must pick. Option A is if there are lots of people who wish to be chair or deputy chair, there'll be a vote taken. Then if there's no clear winner, the bottom vote will drop away, and then then there'll be another round, and so on until there's only one person left. Or there can be option B, which is a bit simpler, where there's one round of voting, and the member with the most votes is wins. So we're advocating for you to take option B because it's a lot easier. So that's the first part of the recommendation, and then we'll move on to actual business.
Okay, somebody move recommendation A and B.
I'd like to move or go with option B.
I'll second that.
And you can move recommendation A to, which is also that we receive the report and accept the level of business. It's a very standard at the top of one of our reports, recommendation. You're just speaking about those two.
Yeah.
We'll now move on to the election using option B, and I'd like to call for any nominations for chair of the Teviot Valley Community Board. I'd like to go with Mark. Would anybody like to second that nomination? Might have missed with the. Before we.
No, I second that or not?
I believe you can.
I'll second it then.
Is that correct one? You can vote for yourself.
You can vote for yourself. I don't think it's busy, you can't nominate, but.
Are there any other nominations for chair?
I'd like to nominate woman.
I second that.
I'll go in order of the two nominations by a raise of hands. Who would like to vote for Mark as chair of the community board? And a raise of hands for Norm as chair. All in favour of Norm as the chair. And I'll ask Norm to take over the rest of the meeting for the election of the deputy chair.
Thank you. Yours is going to stay there.
No, I've got to give this thing very definitely
I shall remember.
to a new chair.
Right, thank you for your confidence in voting and electing me as school committee triennial. Without further ado, what's the proposal? Yeah, I'll just like. Yeah, got the wrong. Okay, so we're up to appointing deputy chairs. So can I take nominations for the deputy chair on the floor, please? I'm going to nominate Mark as deputy chair. We've got a seconder.
I'll second that.
Got any more nominations? It looks like you voted in opposed, the only nomination.
Thank
Is
you.
that the way it works?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yep. Congratulations. Right.
So, you, um, so, so statutory advice and code of conduct. Douglas is going to talk to that report now.
Mr. Chair, you happy for me to stay here?
Yeah.
Or do you prefer that I'm at the top of the table?
Here's
Okay,
fine.
thank you. As Chief Executive, I'm required to advise you of legislation surrounding your office and performance of your duties, as well as present you with a code of conduct for adoption at this first meeting. So this paper fulfills those legislative obligations. The paper does cover off a number of pieces of legislation. I'm going to touch on the key points from each one, because it is very important that each of you understand that it is your obligation and duty to understand and abide by those pieces of legislation in the performance of your duties. So the first piece of legislation is the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act, 1987. This piece of legislation sets out the parameters by which information and communications received and made in your official capacity are made public. It determines when public agendas and reports must be made, and it is important to be cognizant that other than exceptions prescribed in law, all information obtained by you in your is discoverable and therefore publicly available. The Local Authorities Members' Interest Act 1968 relates specifically to the making of contracts between local authorities and its members, and the restrictions on the actions of members when they have a pecuniary interest in a matter. The Act also prohibits a member from participating in discussion or voting on a matter in which the member has directly or indirectly any pecuniary interest, other than an interest that is in common with the public. The obligation is on you to declare an interest that is greater than the general public. The Crimes Act, 1961, you should specifically note sections 99, 105 and 105A, all of which deal specifically with the issue of bribery and corruption. The Secret Commissions Act 1910 relates to the receipt of or giving of gifts as a means of inducement or showing favour. It's important to understand this one because it is the kind of thing that you might come across as you perform your duties and are out and about with the public. The Financial Markets Conduct Act 2013, which places similar obligations on you as members as it does on a company director whenever council offers financial products. the Local Government Act 2002, which relates to the requirements of a member having to vacate their office as a member in the event of a conviction of more than 2 years, or if they cease to be an elector or are disqualified from the registration to register as an elector. The Public Records Act 2005, which is designed to keep the public service accountable by ensuring that records are full and accurate, well maintained and accessible, and it also defines what constitutes a record. The Privacy Act 2020, which determines how we are required to collect, store, use and share information, and the Protective Disclosures or Protection of Whistleblowers Act 2022, which provides protection for employees in disclosing serious wrongdoing by their employer or fellow employees. All of these pieces of legislation are in your report, so you can go back to them. But just note again that the obligation sits with individual members to make sure that you understand and can abide by these pieces of legislation. At the back of the report, there is 2 copies of the Code of Conduct. One is a copy that has track changes in it, so you can see where there have been changes from last triennium, and those are things that we can improve it. And the next copy is a clean copy, so you can read it in its clean format. The Code of Conduct is based on LGNZ advice with some additions, as I mentioned, and it is consistent with the Code of Conduct adopted by councils right across New Zealand. Any questions?
So just the code of conduct that we are using is similar to that of other councils throughout there.
Correct. It is also the one that our council has already adopted and 2 other community boards will have adopted.
What about outside our district? Is it sort of they're the same nationwide?
Almost identical. We do have the ability to slightly amend them or change them. And in this case, we have, and we've got those in track changes where we think there was improvement that just didn't quite answer the questions we had. We didn't realise until we're in the training we had to do that. Yeah. But yes, consistent across New Zealand.
So, do we? Okay, so can I have someone to move that the recommendations A, B and C, please?
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Vote, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against? Right, so moving on to page 71 of the adoption of standing orders.
So in front of you is a paper relating to standing orders. These are the updated orders written from LGNZ and being adopted by councils across the country in these weeks. In adopting them, we will be consistent with those other councils. There are 2 recommendations in the report. First, that we receive a report and set the level of significance to standard recommendation in our report. And recommendation B, that we adopt the revised Local Government New Zealand standing orders with the following amendments. 1, that we enable provisions for meetings by audio-visual link. 2, we enable a casting vote for the chairperson. And 3, endorse option C, informal, as default for speaking and moving motions.
Right, or informal. What's the significance for that?
It's the way in which you would call for and receive motions, and it's described on page 72 and 3. So, in addition to the chairman had interviewed with my computer is also somebody else's computer, because mine wasn't worth either. So we just got 72 and 73. So there is a decision to make there around which option.
So if you went with option A, members who've moved and seconded a motion cannot then move and second an amendment to the same motion. So it's quite formal. Whereas option C,
Oh, that.
yeah.
Right. That's better.
Option C is the
Standard.
typically what Central Otago governors choose. It's the brief here of how people do.
Okay, so recommendations that we have, we need to, someone vote on, someone make a motion on, please. Recommendation I received the report and set the level of significance, be adopt the revised local government standing orders with the following amendments. Amendments 1, enable provisions for the media, the audio, the visual link, enable a custom vote for the chairman, and 3, endorse options 3 informal as the default for speaking motion, moving motions. So can we have a,
I so move.
a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Sally. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Those against? Passed. Thank you. We're moving on to council organisations and policy on appointment of directors. Wayne's going to lead this for us, and that is on page 163.
So this is again, one of those story things for this meeting. This is, the policy has been adopted by council, in regards, council controlled organisations or council organisations, of which we don't have any. However, it is, some important things to note, later on in the agenda, with the community organisations, when you're part of the everything like that, just being aware of obligations you might have if you're being part of those groups. Okay. So I think it's ABC, isn't it? So my fear.
Well, recommendation that the report be received, yeah? Oh, was it? Sorry? Sorry about that. I've jumped ahead. Right, okay, so the recommendations are that the board receives the report and accepts the level of significance, makes appointments as recommended elsewhere in the agenda in light of the contents of the report, and receives the policy on appointment and remuneration of directors to council controlled organisations and council organisations. We have no points to make in this respect.
We're still required to make.
We still,
Still requires to adopt, and it's also just worthwhile thinking about it in regards to the community organisation paper that's coming up with the trust
yeah,
ones, and making sure that people are aware of obligations if they're in the if they're part of the trust.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so can someone move, please, that we follow the recommendations? Thanks, Phil. Second that, Stella. Thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, passed. Thank you. Okay. Page 169, the community board expenditure. Saskia is going to lead this for us.
Good afternoon, everybody. For those that don't know me, and there's a couple around the room, I'm Saskia Rickouts, the GM of Business Support. You're going to be seeing a lot of myself and my team over the next few years, especially around the budget cycle. So the point of this very high-level paper is a bit of a welcome to the wonderful world of local government financing, which is quite technical and different from other ways finance is organised. But the key things really for today is, and a reminder for those who are returning, is there's very set times when we can set the budgets with yourself. So that the general process is every 3 years. We'll work with you on a long-term plan. So there's, under the delegations manual attached to this paper, you have delegations within finances, and you will tell us basically what you want your budget to be in certain areas, and we'll work with you on that, on the rates impact. That then goes into the big washing machine and up to council, and as part of the long-term plan, we'll strike our budgets. Staff then go away and we will do what you have instructed us to do, whether it be in the parks world, pools, etc., grants. And we will regularly report back up to this board every quarter on how we're tracking against the expenditure which you'll get. Now, if there's projects that come up during that 3-year cycle, swimming pools and the likes of that, there might be a playground in the community that members come to and say, hey, we really need new slides, this is something a bit run down. The process by which to get that in the budget is either the LTP, or every year we do an annual plan. Typically the first annual plan, after we set the long-term plan, it's more of a check-in, but that is the process. So it can be quite challenging when you have the community saying, hey, can we please get this, but if it's not in the budget, there's really limited scope. The discretion that you have during the year is really around your grant. So what you will do as a part of the financial budgeting process, you will set a pot. You'll tell us what that is, it'll get into the budgets, and then twice a year the community will request grants from yourself, and you have that discretion around that.
What's the value of that grants process for a year at the moment?
The amount? Oh gosh, I should have had that handy.
It's not much.
No,
Very small.
About 8,000.
8,000. So we have two. One's a community grant and the other's a promotional grant. I want to say the 8,000 for community promotional. I want to say
The promotional is 5.
and again, if you're feeling as a board that's not quite right, you can tell us what you'd like it to do. We'll do the modelling. We'll let you know what the rates impact is, and you make that recommendation up to council. So we're about to start on the LTP process. I wasn't kidding when I said you'll see a lot of us. So we are kicking that off with a discussion with council at the next meeting, just around the high level timeline. It is my intention early next year to come to the community board and do a bit of a workshop around what is involved in the long-term plan. And we can take questions as we go through it. I'm always available. Plant Chair and Tim and your colleagues would have been through it before as well. So at this point, so there'll be lots more coming towards you with finance. Any questions on this particular paper?
So is that the only part of the budget that we're involved with?
No, so there's it's a very complex system where we have district activities. So libraries is a good example. That's all funded at the district level. So Tim and his colleague, or Sally, Tim will be part of the decision around, say, setting what the library is. But there's ward services such as parks is a really good one. So if you want an increase in mowing, you will make that decision and a recommendation up to council as part of that process. So as part of the presentation that I'll do around the LTP, we will break down exactly what sits within the ward and what goes on to district.
I think what Saskia's point was that between those big budget setting rounds, the discretion sits in the grant space. Yeah. But yeah, you do have a very strong part to play in the budget in charge in the annual cycle.
I guess one of the things that it took me a while to understand in my first term was the impact on rates, like every dollar that we spend, just how it flows through. You know, we might make a small adjustment around bucks and that sort of thing, and just the flow of it was quite. I can't explain it to you.
How many rating units are there in our ward?
I think it was 1100.
So I don't have the details on the,
1100 was the round figure.
We can bring that information to your next meeting, and if you have any questions like that ahead of the meeting, let us know, we'll make sure we bring them to the meeting. But across all wards and the whole district, we don't necessarily carry all numbers in our heads at all times, but we're very happy to bring them a question.
And typically, what's the mix between residential and commercial or agricultural?
We can bring you the whole breakdown.
I think one of the strongest impacts that we have from our ratepayer base is the number of holiday homes we have in the valley. And just I guess the transparency and or the visibility rather that our homeowners have of the services that we provide in the village, in the valley rather. The support for change is quite difficult to get in some respects. If that makes sense. Okay, so we're on
So if you said you'll bring that to the next meeting, is that like minuted and then that'll be on the agenda for the next meeting? Is that how it works?
Sort of. So we can often answer questions in between meetings as well, that you can ask questions between times. But if there's specific things you want to ask before the next meeting, you can, and we'll make sure we bring answers to that. It's not necessarily as a paper, sometimes it's part of the discussion. I think at the next meeting, staff there is bringing papers in any instance on finances and the long-term plan, so those will be incorporated into those papers.
so it's our intention at your next meeting is to do a bit of a 101 finance with the board, what your reserves are, what they can be used for, what district reserves look like, the impact of that. And I think Norman Sally can well attest that it does take a bit of getting your head around, especially with financial reporting. So particularly for the new members, if that's got to be good, I can arrange extra sessions with our senior finance staff just to explain it and help you through that.
what might be useful is some examples of how the rates are impacted by different decisions.
Okay, I'll see if the team can, because we're doing the modelling at the moment and plan. So you mean if you spend an extra $100 in the Teviot, or say you increase your budget by, you mean if you increase the budget by 2,000,
Yeah.
what impact that has for
Something
everyone?
simple like that. Yeah. When it's given that the grants budget is our only discretionary, but it's something we're going to focus on really.
So that's your just, I'm sorry if I got confused, that's really your discretionary decision that you make outside of the financial cycle.
Yeah.
But as part of the budget setting process, within anything sitting in the board, it is absolutely your right and the role of the board to consider what those budgets should be, and we'll give advice and modelling on that, and then it gets recommended up to council. Yeah.
Within the ward, you're talking grounds maintenance and roading maintenance and that sort of thing.
Roading is digitized. So there is, I'm trying to think of what the services are. I have this in my head.
I think if I can comment on because parks is a popular one. We have the parks that are water based, and we have a contract with Delta who do all our open space maintenance, and within that, it's split all down to wards. So you do have the opportunity to comment on the level of service you're delivering in the ward, and we would be on the contract and bring it back to you so you understand it.
But definitely, I'll go away and as part of that presentation, the team will bring to the table what's its ward district.
Okay. So the recommendation that the board, that the report be received, then we move this or just a vote on? Just move it. Can I have someone move that, please? Seconder,
Second that.
Russell, thank you. Just a vote on that. Those for that, please.
Right.
Those against. Those. 211, page 211.
Someone showed us how you could jump to something, but I can't see
We
it.
did do it the other day, after you showed me that.
That was blank, okay. Someone showed me you could just go bang and you go to 169 something.
There's a little ribbon at the top you can hit.
Is it this one here? No? Okay, just got to scroll all the way up. Okay.
Really happy to bring out IT guys next to next meeting too. You have the privilege of iPads, which actually starter we don't have. They're new to elected members. And so there might be some of the technical things we can't answer.
Okay.
Okay, so this is, relates to the appointment of members of the board to the subcommittee of, community organisations. We need to go through the types of, like there's a liaison. Role. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So you'll
be under. You'll see there on 211 is a list there of the various things. First of all, there's one subcommittee of the board to the Teviot Valley Walkways Committee. And then there's a number you'll see there of external groups that the board has a relationship with. And you'll remember back to February, anyways, when we went through those, maybe in January. Anyway, we went through those, struck off any that were no longer relevant, added any that were missed from the list, and then you'll see there how many people to appoint, whether it's like one liaison or two representatives.
So I know there's been some recent change from liaison to representative, or from representative to liaison. What's the background behind that?
Well, there's a couple of things. A representative, well, we tried to define what a representative was and what a liaison was. And we arrived at a representative is someone who is on the board of an organisation, a voting member, has an interest in that organisation. Whereas a liaison person is just someone who sort of keeps in contact with the organisation, doesn't have voting rights, things like that. And it also in conflicts of, like if you've got a conflict of interest in something, like if you're at the board, if you're in an organisation, you're at the board table, you're making decisions. If that was to come, you could be conflicted if that came up to something before the board. But a liaison position is sort of a more informal thing where you're sort of arm's length from the organisation, and so you probably would be able to participate in those discussions. Hopefully that makes sense.
The council position on it was to try to shift as many to liaison as possible, because it enabled the board to do its business as effectively as possible, because you're there as a liaison rather than advocate for a group, so you're not conflicted. Some groups though have a constitutional requirement for a different arrangement, and they still are represented. Is that correct?
Yes, I think the reason why the Teviot Valley has done most ones called representation, and I think it's because they're a trust nomination, and so you're part of the decision-making process to hand out cash. So that's why that's more of a representative role than a liaison.
So is it assumed that a liaison person won't have voting rights at that
Correct.
on that committee?
Yeah, this will, I guess the conduit for sharing information
And that's how we worked it last time as well, in the last term, so that we didn't have conflicts of interest.
So, you look through, you look at the first item, the Teviot Valley Walkways Committee. Do we have a liaison person or a representative?
That's a subcommittee of the.
Were you a rep or a liaison?
I'm allowed to, at the subcommittee, so,
Yeah, the subcommittee,
yeah,
the
yeah.
fuel committee.
Yeah.
They have, well, that's typical, isn't it?
Yes, it's different, that's why it's separated out, so that's your point, represented to the board's subcommittee, which is that group.
Right.
You need to choose who are you represented. Did we have one last time?
One.
Just one. Was that your thing?
Yeah, so I'd be happy to stay on that, because I'm in the middle of
That
a
makes sense.
project with the walkways at the moment. Yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah.
Continuity.
Mm-hmm.
So do we just go through this now and
Yeah.
just nominate?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're assuming we're going to spread the load reasonably equally.
Yeah.
And do each of these, presumably also some of these will, you know, have a greater time commitment than others.
Correct.
I was thinking if I ran through each of those organisations and sort of just give you a heads up on what I know.
Yeah.
Of the involvement of the board in these. The INH McFarlane Charitable Trust, I'm one of the was one of the trustees, and Clifton was the other, and we met, I think, 4 or 5 times last year, which was probably 3 times more than I had previously. But we, as a trustee, you're responsible for the investment of the trust funds in the through Pacific Guardian Trust, Perpetual Guardian Trust. So you do have an element of responsibility in that role in there. I would be happy to continue on in that in the role as one of the trustees. So we need a second. The Ida McDonald Charitable Trust will be a similar role. The Roxburgh and District Medical Services.
With the Ida McDonald, Sally's the current one?
Oh, yes, sorry, Sally is, and Raymond is the other.
Yeah.
So we need one more in there. The Roxburgh Medical Services Trust. We need one representative on that. Raymond was our representative on that. You are a member of a trust once again. So there is an element of responsibility to be taken with that as well.
And that's probably a chunkier.
They meet every month, and with the business activity that they've got going at the moment, they'll probably meet 2 or 3 times a month. I am conflicted in that business itself because my wife is a member of the trust already. So I can't put myself into that. The Roxburgh Cemetery Trustee Committee, I thought that had gone. I thought that
I think it's in the process, but it hasn't happened yet.
And yeah, I think they were meeting today actually.
were they?
Not the group, but I think they were meeting about that today. Yeah, so that could be.
Right. Because I was the representative on that and never attended the meeting in the last training. I was out of town once when they called me. The Teviot Museum is a liaison position. Teviot Prospects is a liaison position. Oh, the Roxburgh Entertainment Centre, that's a liaison position. Christian was the representative on that last year. I'm actually the treasurer of that group. Pilkington County Bursary Fund.
I was a representative on that.
Okay, so what was that about?
So it's a trust as well, and it's part of the old Tuapeka County Council that's a kind of overflow, and it gives out money to youth, so students. So it's a bursary fund, and it's once a year you have a meeting.
Yeah.
And there's $1,000 to give out every year.
Yeah.
And you meet with people from what's it called? Yes. Down south. Yeah, Clydevale Way, down south. Lawrence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got a representative on that. Is that because we give out?
Yeah, because you're giving out money.
Okay. Prosperous Swimming Pool Redevelopment Committee, we have one liaison person, and that was Raymond. So he actually chairs that committee. And the Teviot Valley Rest Home is one liaison position. I chair that committee. So, starting at the top again, Sally, the Sapstone and Walkways Committee.
Correct.
Is everyone happy with that? Okay, so Sally's been appointed to that. The McPhail Charitable Trust. I wanted to stay on that trust. If there's someone that wants to join me on that.
I was on it last time, so.
Okay, so you're familiar. The Ida McDonald Charitable Trust, are you going to stay on that, sir?
Yeah, I can,
Or
or someone else if they want.
what you, Jim?
No, I'd rather go into a liaison position
Okay.
than I'm representing.
I'll stay on that.
Hmm?
So I'll stay on that.
Yeah,
You want a second person?
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
thank you. The Medical Services Trust. Very important organisation in our community. Is there someone that will stick their hand up to be involved in that? Rochester Cemetery Trust, I was on that last biennium. Happy to say that it's not like that long.
You might as
It's a
well,
quiet
because you know
place.
what's going on.
Okay, the Entertainment Centre Improvement Committee, one liaison person. As I said, I already chair that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want to spot it out?
I don't mind if you want to do it.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm here to see that.
Cool. Yeah. The Museum Committee, one liaison person. There's quite a lot happening in the museum at the moment. I'm just in the process of investing in the old lodge building.
I can do that.
Yeah. Teviot Prospects, one liaison person. Now Sally and Mark are both members of that.
No, Mark's a member, I'm not.
Oh, you were
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense for me to stay in that role because I'm already there for the MP funding and I'm there for the Teviot Walkways funding. So I'm there for two things already. So
okay.
it kind of makes sense that I continue to be the liaison.
Everyone happy with that? Okay, Tuapeka County Bursary Fund Committee. One representative. Anyone? Nothing.
I could do this.
Hmm?
I could do that.
Yeah. Okay.
The only, sorry, I just The only thing is you do need to drive down to Lawrence for the meeting. That's all I was going to say.
Another meeting.
It's once a year, but you just have to be able to go down there. That's all. So I'm just putting that out there.
I think I can still drive.
Great. Well, I see you on your bike all the time, so you know.
It's a good part of it.
And I just don't want you to bike all the way to Lawrence.
So Russell, it's going to be on the Tuapeka County. The Roxburgh Swimming Pool redevelopment project, one liaison person. Is quite, I mean, that would be quite a,
How far ahead is it?
sorry,
How far ahead is the form?
well, Sally could probably give a better
Brick
update.
board, block fillet. Just waiting on a pesky pole to come down. No, it's
How
really
often
good.
does it meet?
It's once a month. Norman, do you want to join me on that one?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind, but, unless someone else wants, I mean, I'm more than happy. I've got a bit of interest in that. And the Teviot Valley Rest Home, one liaison person.
I don't mind driving myself into it all.
Cool.
How often do they?
Once a month. Usually the third Tuesday, the third Monday of the month. Yeah, okay, can I have someone to move those appointments, please, in a second?
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And against? No. Right. Page 214, proposed meeting schedule for the remainder of 2022 and 2023.
Lucky last report. So you'll see in the attachments there the last remaining meeting for 2022 for this board, and also the 2023 calendar. And also another one, I think it's just the dates. The ones in the calendar and one is just listed. I don't think there's any changes around that I've done for that. I think they're all on the Thursday. These will go into, well, if you're happy with them, they'll go into your calendars on your iPads for next year.
Because everyone got it from.
There's one on the 23rd of May, which is a Tuesday, which is, it looks like an additional one.
Is it the hearings? It's got hearings for tomorrow. So it is.
The purpose of the hearings meeting is for you to be able to deliberate on submissions to the annual plan and budget. They could get tested if there was no submission.
And quite often that is the case. Yeah.
But we need to schedule for them.
Yeah, this last calendar year, we didn't have any ones that were just one batch or other in the year. We just took more off the meeting schedule.
And how far in advance do we get the papers?
Usually it's a week in advance.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Hold on.
The legal requirement,
Mm.
which we also push up against sometimes, 5 working days.
Yeah, which is essentially about a week from the weekend.
And normally on Friday.
Yeah, it's just on the meeting's on Thursday, Friday. We try to get them out.
And the meeting's always here?
Thursday, give them
It's always here? Oh.
Correct.
Yeah, it's good.
From time to time, we may invite you to other meetings of council workshops, that kind of thing, if there is something that's not mutual interest or something as an optional.
So if we've got something we want to discuss, like, as a group, how do we orchestrate that? And if we want to talk about, gold mine, how do we get around the table and just knock that around and talk about it?
Yeah. There's two, I understand there's two ways, and so to what point in the right direction of this. One is through our members type, which is prior to each meeting, and the other is an informed. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah, so that, I'm going to give you a little bit of a waffle, and it starts with it depends. So, if it is something that you just want to talk about, then there's mechanisms that you can do that, like, for example, board only time and other things, just for you to talk and try to understand each other better. The purpose of the reports that come to you at the community board are for you to make decisions. And so if there is something that you wanted to make a decision on, what I would suggest you do is that as a group you talk about, hey, this is something we all agree, and let's ask for it to be put on the agenda and a report to come to us. We are happy to put reports for decision on here for you on matters that are of interest to you and consensus on coming through. We can't always do them for the next meeting, it depends on our resourcing, but we'll definitely schedule them in. So it depends on whether it is a decision making thing or you just want to talk about it. If there's something you want a briefing on, for example, you will find over the course of your term, I would imagine, that we will have MD representatives here to brief you on Lake Onslow, for example. But that's by way of an update to you on what's happening with that decision. So, Louise, did you?
Yeah, if I could just add, because you raised the gold mine, there have been reports to council anyway, I'm not sure about the board on the mine. So if it's something like that, particularly given us new members, if you let us know, we can update you as to what has happened, what decisions have been made and where it got to as well.
So, I mean, presumably there have been some items on agendas that have ongoing impact and are likely to bubble to the top again. How do we as new people find out the background to those and so we can have some thinking on, I'm not suggesting there would be 20 of those, but it probably, I assume there might be 2 or 3 items that are bubbling away that have been discussed around the table here in the past, and for us to get up to speed.
So I think as you approach your next meeting, we will be doing induction with council and community boards as well. Before any meeting, if there are things you want to talk about, you want to understand a bit of briefing on work on where it's at, we're really happy to come and do that as part of it. Yeah.
Okay.
There's also the opportunity, if you would like to have executive team and board only time afterwards for informal discussions, but never for decision making. That happens through the transfer.
Yeah. It's more of those discussions.
Yeah.
Go, what do we all think about this? Let's aerate this and let's.
Or someone has an idea that they want to put to us.
So that's either half an hour before the meetings, which is closed to public and closed to media, is it?
And actually close to staff too, so that, unless you invite us in.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's also, so do you remember the report that you used to produce for at the end of our meetings about was it the status report?
The government program.
Yeah.
Yes, so,
That would be quite useful for these guys.
what Wayne and I could do at the next meeting, what we refer to as an 83 sheet where we put the strategic priorities for the board. And it had things like Lake Onslow, it had what was the poll, and then just a few of the real big things that will be happening, annual plan, when I'll be talking to you about fees and charges and things like that. So we had a bit of a schedule of the year ahead of when we would come talk to you at a high level. So we can definitely, with the lead officer, I think, Sacha, you've been thinking around to the strategic conversation with the board, but we definitely have a current phase 3 that we can bring to the plan on where it's currently at.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Until that general conversation.
That's the sort of thing I'm thinking of. And then you can say, well, you guys all know about everything that's gone on for the last 4 years to get to where we are.
That's certainly the
But to save us asking stupid questions and burdening everyone's time, if there was some briefing, there might be some that we say, oh, could we have a little bit of an overview briefing paper of that, so we don't have to ask dumb questions.
So I just want to put some caveats on this, because I think it's important we have the conversation now. So this is a procedural meeting, which is why you don't have a forward work program or anything else in front of you.
Yeah.
At your regular meetings, you will have a thing called a governance report. And one of the papers attached to the governance report will be the forward work program that identifies some of those strategic things. It is not briefing, but it lets you know when is the next decision point on something that is a piece of work that, or when is the next presentation on something. We are really happy to come and talk about bits of work that are going on. No worries at all. We can do that before meetings if you think it's something that needs to be tabled formally or has decisions that might need to be made around it. If by consensus you think that will bring a decision-making report to the table. What I know we're not resourced for is just to write briefings for anybody that asks at the moment. Really happy to work out how we do it. But so what would be really helpful, I think, is for us to understand what are those things. Is there multiple people that want them? Is it just a conversation on the phone? Is it we bring it to the board and talk to the whole board? So we can start to okay. No worries. But I just want to be a little bit tempered on the number on briefings.
Sure, I understand. You don't want to spend hours and hours of work time. Just for someone to go, oh, that's interesting, not so much there.
And I think in the first month, it might be worthwhile us having some roundtable discussions, just to put the stuff out there that you've got, like the questions, all the ideas and that sort of thing, just to get the ball rolling for us, so we can get some sort of, I guess, general sort of consensus around people's thinking, and it's a socialising opportunity for ideas and so forth.
Yes, and if as part of the induction processes or as any meetings, there's a specific thing you'll want to hear about, let us know before the meeting and we'll make sure we have the right staff and information here for you.
Yeah. So as a suggestion, we could meet again, whether it be next week or the week after, if you guys would like to. I can organise that post this weekend, or we can organise it now.
That you've been informal.
Yeah.
Perhaps you want to organise that outside of the
Okay.
paper that's being,
Right.
because this is for the full meeting calendar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So. Do I need to discuss what we'll put that out?
No, so Wayne is presenting the paper out to
Yeah.
the nomination, for the moving recommendation.
Okay, so recommendations are A, we receive the report and we accept the level of significance, and B, adopts the proposed meeting schedule. So has someone move that in a second, please?
Move that.
Thanks,
Second.
Kelly.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Moved. Okay, so the final thing is the date of the next meeting, which we've just looked at,
Before
the 24th of
November.
November. Yeah,
And
What time?
2 o'clock.
it'll be 2 o'clock. Wayne will send out the agenda.
Well, you know, that's really good.
Apart from that, we've got anything else we need to? Okay, so I'm looking forward to the next training. It's been an interesting last training. We started out with a bang with the tree debacle, and we managed our way through that. Hopefully we don't have any we'll have to make decisions that are going to split the community like that. But
You guys did well. It ended up.
it was hard actually, because we all.
It was good.
Mm. And so sort of coming into the next triennium, I know we sort of come from different backgrounds, but Scully and I, having come as part of the old board, the old guard, we're certainly going to miss guys like Stephen Jeffries and Raymond Gunn. Just the fact that they've been around for so long and so much experience and walk and talk with so many different people in their lives and like government. You can't replace that. And plus, I both, how do I put it, sort of long-term families in the valley. So that's a little part you can't miss. And so I'm looking forward to working for us to be working together. And I guess if there's anything that any agendas that we've got among us, I'd like to have them put on the table now. If there's something that people, you know, I guess want to put ideas that they want to put on the table, or if you've got firm beliefs about something, and you know, it's the opportunity now for us to start the ball rolling, I suspect. And I'm particularly interested in Jill, your background with Voices for Freedom and how you think it might influence this group.
I don't think it will influence this group particularly much. I mean, you know, if I belong to Voices for Freedom, I've also got a background with Groundsville. You know, and yes, there, and I'll be very open and honest. I don't like the way that the LGNZ has actually become a conduit and has taken away a lot of council voice. I'm very unhappy about the structure of it. And I'm things like which I bring to the table right now. You know, the Motorhome Association New Zealand Golf Club. I don't, you know, that's between adults. I don't see why council should kick them off there. And I think they should be allowed to. They're allowed to be there. They've got to pass the membership. Membership strictly to belong to the motorhome, and the people who run the golf club are, you know, pretty good adults. They make good decisions, and they bring money into our town.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't see the necessity for council to get deeply involved about whether or not they're allowed to park there. They're not freedom campers.
No, that's a discussion
No,
we can
you're
have when the matter arises again, as it will.
Yeah, well, I think, and you know, it's motorhome time for these. You know, most of them are retirees, and they're mature people, and it's time for them to start travelling again. And I'm sure the golf club would like an answer.
Well, yeah, without reacting, and they got an answer. And it wasn't, no. This is how it could work.
Yeah, well, I don't know all the ins and outs of that cruise anyway. Actually, with Motorhome Association and stuff, they put up with it.
Okay, Sal, you got anything you want to?
No, I just think that it would be great if we all get together and work as a team. I think that was a big thing that Sachi said at council last week, and we do have potentially some big projects happening in our area over the next term. And I think we've probably got, you know, a lot of change with different reforms coming up. But I also think we need to stay open-minded to change. Like, we can't just keep doing the same thing because we've always done the same thing. So I think it's good if we have an open mind to ideas that are coming up as well.
For those who are interested, I've got 2 cones of those pines that got cut down.
We've got what, sorry?
2 cones.
2 cones.
I'm going to start growing some.
Great, good on you. Well, we'll find a spot for you to replant them, Russell.
And Russell, have you got anything you want to share with us? About what
No,
you see the next training?
I'm very interested to be on the board again, and yeah, I've got a few things I'd like to achieve for the town. I don't think it's quite the place to discuss them at this point, but they involve bike tracks and stuff like that. I don't think all the heavy trucks should be. Well, since I've lived here, which is 20 years, or had a house here, I'd say that traffic past my door is double, and I think we have a back road for heavy trucks shouldn't be permitted to through. Because if you ever try to have a conversation on the truck goes past, you can be quiet for, a couple of minutes while it goes. Yeah. But, time will tell.
No,
I think my focus is more on the big picture stuff. I mean, obviously the long-term plan is a result of a lot of that, but strategically the spatial plan, I don't quite know how we as a board fit into that decision-making process, but hopefully we will be. Onslow and how that may or may not affect it, well, obviously it'll affect us, but you know, that and how we get the community's opinions relating to that. The gold mine, which is down the road from me, and a lot of my local constituents are very, very concerned about that. So I'm keen to catch up on the current status of that as to what they do have approved, what they don't have approved, what they're allowed to do, what they want to do, because no one knows. That's a bit of a huge void. I mean, they've come and spoken to people, but you know, no one actually knows what they are allowed to do. The Three Waters, that's kind of way above my pay grade, so to speak, but I think we're an important conduit in the information dissemination on that as to where the council position is. I feel very embarrassed if someone comes to me and says, "What's the council doing about Three Waters?" And I go, "I don't know, got no idea. I read it in the paper." So that's where it's important that we are kept abreast of what the council's policy is on those items. And I take your point that we don't want to keep going and asking for reports and things like that, but what's current status? Tim said this, did he? Oh, really? Well, I don't know why he said that, because that's not what I've been told, you know. He must have been misquoted, you know. We can back the council up where there's a lot of misinformation. But to do that, we have to know. I think that, to be fair, from my limited, I've only been here 2 years, but I just think that the face of the community board is very low. People don't seem to really know about it. And I think we've got the opportunity to get more there, get more out there, whether that's on Facebook or whether it's regularly in the Teviot bulletin or whether it's doing some surveys as well. But I think we've got opportunity there to communicate a bit more, and that presumably will make people feel warmer about the community board, which makes them warmer about the council. And also for us to get some feedback about, well, what about such and such, or what about this, or this is something we aren't happy about. Doesn't mean to say it's going to change just because people aren't happy, because part of being here, we will have to make some decisions that we don't like having to make, but they're long-term, long decisions made for the long-term benefit, but it'll mean short-term unpopularity. So those are the big sort of things that are on my.
cool. Okay.
Quickly, perhaps give you some assurity that one of the things that you may have already had a calendar invite for the 23rd of November. We were doing some induction for council, and we've sent out the invite to community board members. Optional if you want to come. We will cover some of those big strategic things, not necessarily from the start point, because 10 of our 12 councillors are returning, and they would get up with the same thing twice. But we will be talking about things like the future of local government review, RM reform, what the council's role is in Lake Onslow and Three Waters. So really welcome you to that. Over the course of your term, we will come and speak about those things with you as well. So I think last training, Julie did come and talk about Three Waters, for example. So you will get access to those conversations. We're very, very happy to have them. The other thing that will happen very soon is that today you've noticed I've sat here and been trying to give some help to Morgan, doing an unenviable position of picking up maybe halfway through. But we will appoint a lead officer to this board. That will be a senior member of staff who's here to work with you and make sure that we've sort of our liaison officer to you, if you like. And so part of what that person will do with you is find a time that's convenient to you to sit down and talk about what are the strategic priorities for this board, over the year in the training, so that you can sit down and talk about that and just, see if you can collectively agree on what the things you really want us to focus on, so we can try and do our best work for you to deliver for your community.
What would you call that person? Sorry, what officer?
A lead officer, or
A lead
a ward champion, actually, is what we call them colloquial, but they'll be there. So we have the governance team to help run the meetings, all the processes. The lead officer or the ward champion is here to just help with that strategic people and making sure that they're supporting you to achieve what you want to.
So this past year was our lead officer last.
Correct.
Cool. Okay, so with that all said and done, I declare this meeting closed.
What time, 23rd of November? Meeting.
It's all day.
All day,
9.
9.
Yes. So Wayne, that meeting request has gone out. Yes.
Yeah.
So you might set in your calendar or in your emails if you've just got your computer today. And the thing will be to accept the meeting request so that we know who we've got